Hi everyone. In this video, I want to introduce your first major writing project, the rhetorical analysis. This unit is going to be the first 2 weeks of the course, and basically what we're going to do is in the first week, you're going to work through a lot of the concepts that are important to thinking about rhetoric and argument. And in particular, there'll be a focus on the rhetorical situation, which is the thinking about arguments as the result of being occurring in a certain context with a specific purpose to a specific audience. And there'll also be a focus on the different rhetorical appeals, which are ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos. In other words, they are appeals to credibility, emotion, logic, and context or timeliness. You'll get a lot more into those in the first unit, the different activities you're going to be doing. But I want to kind of go over and introduce the first major writing project that you're going to be working on. So the whole idea is that, this is kind of the idea of the textbook with its title, Everything's an Argument, is that everything could be thought of as an argument. In other words, could be thought of as expressing a point of view. And so the rhetorical analysis is going to ask you to think about how that works in a very specific context. And so what you're going to be doing in this first assignment is you're going to be picking the web presence of a public figure, a business, or an organization, and analyzing how it works rhetorically. So this could be the Facebook page for a politician or celebrity. It could be the Twitter account for an organization like the American Red Cross. It could be the website for a business like Walmart. Who you choose is really up to you. It's kind of open-ended, as long as if you do this is either an official organization or business, or it is a public figure. So what that means is you can't do like your grandmother or your best friend, unless your best friend happens to be Leonardo DiCaprio or something like that. So what you're going to be doing then is picking this platform, this web presence, and you're going to be analyzing it as a multimedia text, right? Thinking about how on a website or on Facebook or Instagram, right? There are all these different things doing work. There's the images, the text, the order they're shared, what's highlighted. And so you're really going to be working through those different elements and thinking about how they work rhetorically. So the goal is, if you look at the assignment sheet, you'll go at the bottom of the assignment description. The goal of the rhetorical analysis is to fully answer that question in italics, which is, how does the public, business, organization, figure's web presence successfully engage its target audience or not? So you'll be thinking, before you start writing the paper, you'll be thinking about who is the audience for this, what is the purpose of it, and then what's the context, right? So the context is going to be the website, Facebook, the platform that this content is delivered through. So in that what to do, what not to do section, there's a lot of kind of important aspects. So remember that you are analyzing this web presence. So that means that you are not just talking about what you see, but you are breaking it down and saying how it works to achieve its goal, right? So the difference between the description and analysis is often showing, not telling, right? So you're not just pointing at somebody's cover photo on Facebook and saying, oh, that's building ethos. You have to tell us how it builds ethos. You have to show us that. How does it establish their credibility? So you want to make sure throughout the paper that you are analyzing the different elements you choose to focus on. So you shouldn't be engaging with the content. So in this paper, I don't care if you choose to do, let's say, President-elect Trump's Twitter feed and you love him or hate him. I don't care for this paper. It's not about how you feel. It's about thinking about the goal of this platform and how it's engaging its audience in its purpose or goal. So you shouldn't be engaging the argument or any specific points. You should be an objective observer analyzing the web presence. So you want to make sure that you're picking different elements. So you're not just looking at the overall website, Facebook page, whatever. You're picking out specific posts, specific images, text, right? If you're looking at a website, you might think about the organization of the different tabs, what images they've chosen to use, where their logo is, right? So all these different things come together and represent a specific purpose. So you want to make sure you talk about all four of the rhetorical appeals, which you'll get into more in this first week of content. But make sure you talk about ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos in your rhetorical analysis. The appeals are the framework that you're going to use to break down the web presence that you're looking at, but you want to make sure that you're focusing on the overall goal. So what's its purpose? Think about the voice, the tone, the persona that's being cultivated in this space, the affordances and limitations of the website or social media site. In other words, what does Facebook allow you to do and how you present your content, or Twitter? What can you not do on Instagram? What freedom is there with a website that maybe isn't there in a social media account? Look at specific pieces of content, links to other pages, users or accounts. So if they link to anything, a story, another account of a public figure, another business, that's all fair game. The only thing that I don't want you bringing into this paper is what what an average user might say. So let's say Joe Smith in Topeka suddenly comments on, I don't know, President-elect Trump's post, right? That's fine. You shouldn't be talking about it. You should focus more on what President-elect Trump is posting on his account. So, you could talk about the comments generally, but don't really focus in on specific comments. Focus mainly on the content that's originally being posted. So, you should look at, like I said, you should look at specific examples. Posts are good, specific images, things like that. They're going to be helpful. And if you choose to look at a social media account for the paper, and I'll be looking at and reviewing everybody's topics, but if you do something like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, which is fine, you should only look as far back as about July 2016, so the middle of last year. So it gives you about a 6-month window or so in terms of the content you're looking at, considering for this paper. So website's a little bit different. So whatever's kind of featured most currently on the website is what you'll be analyzing. So just one other thing to keep in mind, some people think you're looking at everything for a public figure or business. So you're looking at Walmart's website, Facebook page, Twitter, everything, and you're only focusing on one platform, right? So you're only looking at Walmart's Facebook page or Twitter account. You're not looking at all these different elements. You're only looking at one. So the goals you can see there are really to think about and kind of be aware of the different rhetorical appeals and how they work in various contexts. Show a knowledge of the key rhetorical features, such as audience situation, the use of appropriate argument strategies. One of the big things is practicing evaluating the validity of information used to support, right? So one of the big things in the wake of this election has been the rise of fake news and misleading news. So part of what you might be looking at is how accurate is the information being shared by this person or this organization, and is that credible, and how does that play into the overall effectiveness of their web presence? So the length and format of this paper, this is the body of the paper should be 1,500 words. Max is around 2,000 words. This excludes, your word count does not include the APA cover page, page numbers, bibliography, all that stuff doesn't count for against your word count. Standard formatting stuff here, 12-point Times New Roman or Calibri font. The whole paper should be double spaced. It should have 1-inch margins on all sides of the page, and use proper APA documentation to cite all sources and have a bibliography page. So in terms of the sources, I'm asking that you find 3 outside sources. They just have to be credible. There's no limit really, or no limitations on what types of sources those are. But they do need to be, basically you're using these sources to provide more context about the web presence you're looking at. So maybe you're looking at a story about President-elect Trump, or maybe you look at LeBron James's Twitter account and you want to look more about his early career and things like that, right? So really, for this paper, your sources are pretty general and providing more context. You could also use them maybe to fact check if you have questions about a claim that somebody's making on their site. So really, they shouldn't be very heavily featured in your paper. They're more just kind of to help you get a little bit more understanding of the public figure, the business, or the organization you're looking at and the claims they're making. So you need 3 of those outside sources. They should be credible and informative. So beyond that, just make sure that you are including them in your bibliography page and that you are citing them in the body of your paper. So On your bibliography page and only on the bibliography page, you should also cite the social media account or the website of the web presence. You don't need to cite it in the body of the paper because you're going to be referring to it so much. It might maybe every 3 or 4 lines you'd have a citation. So for this paper, I'm not asking that you provide in-text citations for the web presence you're analyzing, but you do need to have a citation on the references, or the references page at the end of the paper. So what I'm looking for, and there is a more detailed rubric that kind of breaks this down on D2L that you can look at. But generally what I'm looking for is that you analyze the argument on rhetorical lines, that your analysis is thoughtfully organized, so it makes sense why you're talking about what you're talking about. We follow you from one point to the next, things like that. That you remain objective throughout the analysis. You are not engaging with the arguments being made. You're just thinking about how they work rhetorically and whether they're effective or not. And then that you use APA format in terms of bringing your sources in, formatting the paper, all that stuff. So you will be turning in several different process elements, and these dates are listed on the assignment sheet and are in the assignments, as you'll see, built throughout the unit in D2L. So make sure you're aware with each of those dates. So in terms of the grading breakdown, I will ask for a topic paragraph first, and I always like to review the topic paragraph just to make sure that your topic works, and let you know whether you're on the right track, or you might need to pick something that fits the assignment better or something like that. So that's going to be 10% of your grade on the paper. You will have an initial draft that is due for the peer review activity. And for drafts, you are not graded for first or revised drafts when we have those. You're not graded on quality. I don't care how horrible or ugly it is. That's totally fine. That's part of the process. Right? If it is awful and you're embarrassed, that's okay. We've all been there. I'm just looking that you have a draft ready to go for the peer review. That's all I'm doing when I'm grading that. So in terms of the final draft, what I'm looking for, the breakdown, is that you use, or there's 10% in terms of how you organize the paper. So that's looking at paragraph structure, transitions, the overall organization, how you present your points in your analysis. 10% on APA format, that's the general formatting, cover page, running head, your references page, the citations, all that stuff. 5% on grammar mechanics, so people will often ask this, and I don't really care that much about grammar mechanics because that's stuff that can always be ironed out later. The only way you'll tend to lose points is if there is a lot of errors, or your grammar mechanics obscure the meaning of what you're trying to say. So if it's hard to understand what you're saying because there's a lot of errors there, or it's clear you didn't proofread your paper before you submitted it and it's a hot mess, you'll lose points that way. But I'm not going to count every misplaced comma or missing misspelled word or typo or anything like that. So that's only 5% of your grade. You'll notice the most of your grade, half of the paper grade, is the content. And that's what I'm most interested in, is what you are saying in your analysis. How strong is that analysis? How effectively are you picking out these elements, thinking about how they work rhetorically, putting this in context of how they all feed back into the larger purpose of the web presence? Is it engaging its audience effectively or not? So that's what I'm really mostly interested in when I grade the final draft. So on that last page, you'll notice there's some suggestions about web presences. So just take, I mean, you're welcome to choose one of these if you can't think of anything else and you think it might be interesting. But really, they were just more kind of examples to help you start your thinking about what you might want to work on. Because ideally, with all of these writing projects you're going to do, I like for you to pick your own topic, have it be something that you're interested in. So, keep that in mind. And if you have questions about topics along the way, or you're not sure if it works, by all means, feel free to send me an email. If you have questions about the assignment in general, there is that discussion board that's always up on D2L where you can post questions and I'll get back to them in a timely manner. You can set up a time to conference with me. So but that's kind of the gist. So, and this is kind of it. Well, hopefully you'll be working through all this stuff in Unit 1. So you'll be looking at the rhetorical situation, what arguments are, thinking about the rhetorical appeals. You'll be looking some of the content focuses on visual and multimedia rhetoric, so thinking about those different elements, and what happens when we think about arguments that aren't just written, but visual arguments that we see and the different elements that kind of come into play there. And that'll all be leading up to, I think, determining your topic. And then the second week will be focused a lot on working on that draft, completing the peer review activity, and get the final draft ready to go. So if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to contact me. I'm here to help out however I can. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to seeing what you all choose for your topics, what you come up with in the paper. All right, thanks.